differently abled, when people can change their perspective. I am using words of Steve Wonder, who was a famous American singer and a music composer. He said very important few words. He said, just because a man lacks the use of his eyes does not mean he lacks vision. I'm repeating it again. Just because a man lacks the use of his eyes does not mean he lacks vision. But before I move further, who am I? Why am I talking about all this? My name is Sarthak Educational, and I am a serviceman. I am a soldier. I am a sevak of Sarthak. The Sarthak institution, which started 12 years back to ensure that differently abled, not only in this country but across the globe, can have a voice, can bring change, and can ensure that they are independent, they are self-reliant, they are Atmanirbhar. And that journey began 12 years back. Today we are going to talk about some past moments, some current cases, and looking forward to a bright future. I want to talk about two very short stories here. If we invoke mythology, there are two very important characters who were differently abled. One was Dhritarashtra, we all know, the Kaurava's father, or the king of Hastinapur. Despite of he becoming the king, he was limited with his inability that a king is not only the father to his son, but to the entire kingdom. He missed that point. And when he missed that point, he only started focusing on me, myself, my clan, my family. And you know what happened in the end. And then there was another gentleman in the mythology. His name is Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra essentially means disability from 8 places. He had disformance at 8 places. Eventually, he grew up to become one of the most pronounced Hindu Vedic sage. He wrote Ashtavakra Gita, and I will invoke few lines from it, and it's very important, every word of it. He said, if you wish to be free, if you wish to be free, know thyself. The witness of all these, the witness of all these, the heart of awareness, the heart of awareness.
Can I speak to you for a minute?
Set your body aside. Sit in your awareness. Sit in your awareness. You will be once be happy, forever still and forever free. Essentially, it's all your spirit, it's all your heart, it's all your perseverance which matters. And those are some of the stories which we are going to hear from our esteemed panelist, Assis, Mr. Chandramouli, Mr. Firoz Bacha, and Mr. Supriyo Gupta. So let me introduce very, very quickly to our esteemed panelist, Supriyo Gupta, who is the CEO of Talk Communication, Firoz Bacha, who is a management consultant, had a long distinguished career in the corporate world, Assis Patnaik, who is the Vice President and HR Head of Reliance Retail, one of the biggest retail giants in the country, N.V. Chandramouli, who is a board member of Sarthak Educational Trust. So my first question straight goes to Mr. Patnaik. If you can share, so as I mentioned that Sarthak has been in existence for last 12 years. You have been associated with us for a few years. How has been your journey? Tell us something about these special children, special youth, specially abled people, and tell us some stories which inspire others as well. Mr. Patnaik, over to
Uh,
you.
okay, thank you, Siddharth. I hope I'm audible. Both the audio and video are clear. Okay, so let me first tell you that I take immense pride in saying that we're one of the few organizations in the country to really having done a lot of good work on this front of employing the differently abled population. Currently, as I'm speaking, we have 1,000+ people deployed all across the country. And we take immense pride in saying that it remains one of our key HR parameters that we monitor on a month-on-month basis through a platform of HR review and progress report. Our association with Sarthak has been very good, I must say. I know Dr. Jitendra Agarwal for quite some time before even coming to Reliance when I was in Future Group based out of Delhi and Gurgaon. So the relationship with the Sarthak organization goes back to before my joining Reliance Retail some 5 to 6 years before. Now let me tell you, my entire exposure to this work of on differently abled actually happened when I joined Reliance Retail. Before that, my experience was indirect. It was never direct experience. Now, when I visited some of the stores in Reliance Retail all across the country, I realized that the kind of energy, the kind of excitement, the kind of happiness these people bring on floor in terms of their eagerness to serve the customer, in terms of their commitment to keep these stores neat and clean is much higher, much better than a normal population. The reason being, number one, because they are kind of disabled in a physical way, their mental alertness goes up tremendously high. And I am privy to some of the customers, whenever they come to the store, they make it a point that they definitely interact with these differently able staff. In fact, when we go to the store, we make a store visit, me and my colleagues and my seniors make it a point that we must spend some quality time with these people. And I would say 9 out of 10 times the customer interaction, not 9 out of 10, I would say 9.9 out of 10 times, the customer interaction has ended with the customer happiness and the customer satisfaction. We did a program some 1 year back in our RCP in head office in Mumbai, where we invited some 150 people, 150 differently able people flown from different parts of the country. And these people by themselves did a fantastic show in terms of the song, dance, and everything in the auditorium before an audience of some 300 to 500 people. So there are enough and more stories which goes about proving the point that they are in no way inferior. Rather, I would say they are in many ways superior when it comes to service delivery. And let me also tell you that in a place like retail is the fundamental of retail is consumer interaction and consumer engagement. So in our store, where I'm talking on behalf of the Reliance Retail, I'm talking of largely the grocery format that where I am a part of, that the kind of connect, the kind of personal connect that these guys build goes miles away, and it really reposes the faith on the part of the customer that yes, Reliance Retail is not only in the business, but also they are into something which goes beyond the normal call of the duty. So my experience as an individual, my experience as an HR professional, day by day increases, and we stay committed to that cause of furthering the employability of the differently able staff. And in fact, we have got many awards on this category by different organizations, both within and outside. So I think I have a very beautiful kind of a memory. I've got a very beautiful kind of an experience when it comes to different people. And I will personally kind of cherishing that, yes, we must keep on continuing to tread on this path.
Thank you, Ashish. This is very important. So, ladies and gentlemen, 3 things which Ashish spoke about, which are very relevant and which are pertinent. First thing, Ashish spoke about that attention, what everybody is vying for in this period. You need attention. Everybody wants to be acknowledged. And Ashish told us that if you're differently abled, by default, you are getting attention. So it's not a disability, it's an ability to get attention. So that's one very interesting point. Second thing, how do we sell better? How do we help better? How do we do things better? Simply by connecting better. And I think Ashish told us second very important thing, that these differently abled connect far better than rest of the staff. So amazing. This is again second capability, that if you are differently abled, you can connect better with everyone. Abled or differently abled does not matter. So that's number two. Number three, Ashish has taken pride that Reliance and his associate companies are hiring more and more differently abled, so that these 18 crore or maybe 24 crore differently abled Indians can come into the mainstream and make a mark of themselves. Thank you, Ashish. This was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My next question is to Mr. Supriya Gupta. He's the wizard. He's the wizard in communication. You ask him anything about media and communication, and there he is. So, Supriya, you tell us about your journey with Sarthak, how you connected, and some stories, some small short stories which can just lit up our lives, because you are a great communicator and stories communicate most effectively. Over to you, Supriya. Supriya, you are on mute. If you can unmute yourself, please.
Yes, Siddharth, you can hear me now.
Perfect.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry,
actually,
guys, if you have any questions, please put it on the chat box. We are all here to answer all your questions, because we will spend quite a bit of time on the Q&A. Thanks, Supriya. Please continue.
Right. Yeah, Siddharth, so I think it was interesting because I had organized a vocational a seminar on vocational education at CII. And at that point of time, it was, I had invited Dr. Agarwal. In fact, ITC had invited Dr. Agarwal to be a part of that seminar. And I thought I had got him into this vocational education seminar, but it was actually he who then got me involved in Sarthak, because we started this basic discussion on really how is media dealing with the subject of disability. No matter how you use different words for it, and you can use better and more politically correct words on it, the fact of the matter is there has been very little change in the way in which media is actually reporting. So if you end up looking at it, most of the times you'll find that it is either sensational or it is gut-wrenching. So there are such extremes, you're not really getting anything which is very, commonplace. Today you look at, say, another area, for instance, you look at marginalized populations, you look at women's related issues, a lot of issues have become mainstream. But so far as disability is concerned, it has still not got mainstream. And a good example we have seen in the last 4 months. I mean, if you really were to do a simple Google search to try and figure out how many stories have come on disability and how COVID is impacting the disabled, you will find so few stories, right? It just tells you that at the end of the day, they are not even sitting out there. And we've had very interesting experiences, because I've been, from time to time in part of the various seminars and conferences that took place. And we saw anger, especially in one of the, some of these sessions, we saw anger in the people with disability who are sitting out there and saying, it's not just a question of being invisible people. It is also a question of the fact that where we should be given chances, we are not given chances. Where we should be out there and we have the same standing, we find people, organizations backing off. We also realized a second thing which was rather interesting in most of the conferences. The first couple of times we were sitting and talking in English. We suddenly realized that in one of the other ones, that the one who was getting the maximum reception from the audience of disabled were the people speaking in Hindi, because they had a much better relationship. The language was understood. It was far, in English, we tend to try and build up the concepts to a far larger stage. It's actually delightful over the last 6 years to see the way Sarthak has grown. I'm so happy to see the way in which Reliance has got involved. Frankly, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, it was just baby steps that were getting taken. So I think all of you have done a fantastic and a fabulous job over the last 12 years. And I think we should, in the next round of discussions, talk about what next and what's the future.
Sure. So thank you, Supriyo. This is very relevant. So they say that media is the fourth pillar of democracy. Democracy या जनतंत्र का चौथा स्तंभ मीडिया को कहते हैं, पीआर को कहते हैं, न्यूज को कहते हैं, और शायद वो कहीं ना कहीं अपनी पकड़ और अपना काम पूरी तरीके से नहीं कर रहा है. Supriyo rightly said that three things which we see challenge with media. One is polarization. Either they'll make them God or demon. There is nothing in between. Very relevant point. And the second one is these differently abled are just invisible. And third important point which he made is biases, where companies to a very large extent had this bias against the differently abled. तो कैसे इसको खत्म करना है, इस पे हम तवज्जो डालेंगे अपने दूसरे चरण में. Let me come back to Mr. Chandramouli, and Chandramouli ji has been Sarthak's board member for a very long period of time. He has worked very, very closely with Sarthak. So let's hear him about his journey, his success story with Sarthak. Over to you, Chandramouli ji. Mr. Chandramouli, you have to unmute yourself. And guys, I'm repeating again, please ask your questions. We have a great panel, we have a great delegation. अपना प्रश्न पूछिए, जवाब मिलेगा यहां पर. बिना हिचकिचाए अपने सवाल डालिए, हम सब जवाब देंगे. Mr. Chandramouli.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So basically, I think my journey with Sarthak actually began in 2019. So that's not very long, but the fact is that I had a chance to meet with the prospective candidates that Sarthak was training to put up for employment purpose. Now, what I noticed among them is that there were lots of questions which they had, and also some of them were very quite agitated over the fact that employment opportunities are not coming their way. Now, one of the things that I believe, and I think what I propagate to everybody is, rather than look for opportunities to come to you, you need to go to the opportunity and push for it. And the second thing that actually needs to be emphasized to these people who are, as Supriyo put it, whether you call it disabled or differently abled or whatever it is, whichever term is suitable, we go with that. We need to be very clear about the fact that at some point of time, the self-reliance factor has to come in, because generally what happens is we either offer sympathy or disdain. Both are not, the right way to look at something where somebody needs help. So therefore, what needs to be done is these people need to have a feeling of empowerment. These people need to have a very close understanding of the fact that in India, employment opportunities are very few and far in between. There is a huge level of competition, and they need to actually be prepared for that competition. Rather than stay away, look at the competition and comment about this competition, they need to be prepared for this. Once you get prepared for these things, as far as going for interviews, not getting selected, it happens to all of us, in the sense that I have worked in corporate for almost 32 years. Probably among the 25 or 30 interviews I must have gone, I must have succeeded in 3, which is not a very high factor. So it's the same thing for these people too. The people look at them from the point of view of how useful are you going to be for me delivering my outcomes. Just as I think Assis was saying, in the case that they have very good, experience in terms of these people delivering the outcomes. So basically, when I spoke to these people, I always told them, look at it from the point of view of what you can do for your prospective employer. What is he looking for? What can you do? What can you offer? Once these two match, then there will be no difficulty in terms of getting employment or going further in your career with these people. The next thing that needs to happen is, of course, something where you need to be a little bit thick-skinned, because people have this habit of trying to be sarcastic, cynical about mistakes which you will make. First thing you must understand is mistakes are made by everybody, not only by people who are differently enabled. It will happen when you are learning something new, and if you don't make mistakes, either you're genius or you're doing nothing. So I think basically the attitude that needs to be there is make mistakes, learn, and move forward. So the messages that I gave to them is stay positive, be positive. And I also happened to meet a lot of very motivated youngster. One youngster was, I think, working in one of the warehouses of Reliance or something like that. So basically, he says that I was asked to do extra hours and all that. He says I never minded it because I learned more, and then I became more useful to the organization. And today, people value my presence in that particular organization. So at the end of the day, rather than look for sympathy, look for how you can contribute, look for how you can be useful to where you want to go. Keep your goals high, and there is no, what should I say, premium for aspiring high, and work hard and get there. These were the messages that I gave to them. I've met some extraordinary youngsters who have actually done, some of them have done engineering. One of them was actually preparing for chartered accountancy. And also, I think I happened to meet one gentleman who's a board member who actually has visual disability. He was also there, and he was also telling us how he took his career forward, where his visual disability did not prevent him from progressing in his career. So the message has to be reinforced that you have to look after yourself, and along the way, if you need some help, others can give you that particular help. At the end of the day, you go in front of the organization, they interview you, they look at your suitability. So this is the message that I have given to them, and this is the the experience I've had. Extremely good. In fact, talking to Dr. Agarwal, talking to Dr. Sudhir Gupta, and also Atul Bhatnagar and all these people who are also fellow board members. It's a tremendous what should I say, experience to be with people who are actually looking to help and looking to take forward an organization which is serving those who are differently enabled and helping them realize their potential in life.
So very, very important 3 things which Chandramouli ji taught us. First is the opportunities will not come to you. You have to go to the opportunities. The second very important thing, which now everybody is talking about, Atmanirbhar, self-reliant. You have to become Atmanirbhar. And third thing, which you just can't miss it, is that you have to become thick-skinned, rhino skin, as I say. Gande ki chamdi aapko banna padega. And there is a very famous saying, before we accept anything, there are 4 stages. First, people will ignore you. Second, they will laugh at you. Third, they will get jealous of you. Fourth, they'll accept you. They'll embrace you. मैं हिंदी में इसका ट्रांसलेशन भी करना चाहूंगा क्योंकि हमारे हो सकता है कुछ मित्र शायद हिंदी भाषी हो। पहले वो आपको इग्नोर करेंगे, आपको की तरफ देखेंगे भी नहीं, फिर आपकी तरफ वो हंसेंगे, फिर आपसे वो ईर्ष्या करेंगे, और अगर आप तब भी डटे रहे तो आपसे वो गले लगेंगे। सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट मैसेज which Chandramouli ji has given, that these are the stages which one has to follow if you want to be successful, if you want to win, if you want to be relevant, and if you are relevant, there are people who will seek you, who will employ you, and who will value you. Thank you, Chandramouli ji. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
My next panelist, and who's an esteemed management consultant based out of Pune, Mr. Feroz Bacha. सर, अपने बारे में कुछ बताइए और अपनी जर्नी के बारे में बताइए सार्थक के साथ, एंड वी वुड वांट टू अंडरस्टैंड कैसे आप और सार्थक लिप्त हो गए एक साथ, आपने ये मुहिम अगले लेवल तक चला दी. सो Mr. Bacha, tell us some few incidents if you recollect.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. And I must thank Sarthak for getting me involved post-retirement into whatever little I could contribute. But before I come to Sarthak, I would like to go back to my working career where certain experiences which connected me to this. So I'll take some time of yours on that. If everyone has heard about Jain Group of Industries in a small town called Jalgaon in North Maharashtra, this was started by a person called Bhavarlal Jain, who is no more now, and the next generation takes care of the huge business there. They presented me a diary when I went to their plant for some equipment sale, and Mr. Bhavarlal Jain's statement has stuck with me. And my guiding statement in life is that life is not measured by the number of breaths you take, but the moments which take your breath away.
Wow. I
think it's very important there are moments that take your breath away. And the words, a very simple theme in the diary, the vision statement of Mr. Bhavarlal Jain, who made a huge industry out of a Vanjar Jameen in Jalgaon.
Jain irrigation.
Irrigation. Yes. It read, give back a little bit more to life than what you take away from it.
Wow.
And I think that really got me thinking that in this corporate world where we are aspiring for everything else, but here is a man who has thought differently, visioned differently. So that took me to my sunset days at Thermax when I was the regional head of the Bombay office. For those people who know Bombay, I had the best office location you could ever have. My window looked out at the gateway of India, at the fort, and a tough job for a 5,000 crore company to manage the western region of 5 states, but I was thoroughly enjoying it. One fine morning, Mrs. Aga, a chairperson, calls me early in the morning and says, Feroz, I have a small request. She's the most humble person you can come across. And she said, Feroz, I have a small request. There is this person who wants to start up a little courier service, and he will need about 4 or 5 seats in your office. Can you give it to me? Now you can imagine how difficult that is in an office based in Kolaba in Bombay. And I couldn't say no to her. The gentleman I met was Mr. Dhruv Lakra. And Dhruv wanted to start up a company called Miracle Couriers. If someone can Google that in their spare time, it'll take me a few more minutes, but it's very important to what everyone in the panel has tried to convey. So Dhruv, young man, educated in the States, in one of the leading consulting companies, suddenly decided to come back and do something different within the country. And he was sitting in his father's estate in Uttarakhand, and his father was an ex-army person who was paralyzed below his waist, so he was on crutches. And he was wondering what he had to do in life, and a courier came across to give a parcel to his father. So the courier comes. What does he do? He opens the register, gives you an envelope, takes your signature and goes back. After this, he was traveling back to town and he had someone sitting next to him who he tried to communicate with. That's when he realized that that person was deaf and mute. And he found it difficult to communicate with him. As he reached town, both the incidents came together. He said, what can I do for the differently abled people? Point one. And the second thing which came to him was that, what did that courier do? He came with a register. He gave me an envelope, took my signature and walked away. No words spoken, no interaction, nothing.
Correct.
So that told him, that was his moment which took his breath away. And he said, why can't I start a courier company which is entirely run by deaf and mute people?
Wow, brilliant. Brilliant.
And this was his request to his professor who was known to Anu. And I was privileged to support Dhruv to start up this little startup in my office in Bombay. And within 2-3 months, from 8 employees, it grew to 18. And he needed a larger place, so he moved out. But every morning, evening, I could spend 10 minutes of my time to see what these people were doing. And end of the day, when they were leaving my office, they wanted to meet me. And I realized that they were the most giving people in their thought process ever. And they would, they had sign languages for everything. I found it fascinating. For example, they would sort of, my secretary Kirti had a lovely lock of hair. So for them, Kirti was like this, just like this. For me, it was so simple. It was like this. I always had French hair. And they connected up with everyone, all the 90 employees in my office so beautifully. And I've been in touch with Dhruv ever since then. This is just to tell you that whatever our esteemed panelists have conveyed so far, it covers these points of enabling people, giving them sustainability rather than giving them donations. And that's when Mr. Kalra introduced me through his friend in Pune to Sarthak. And I was so glad to join up with this association because, and when I met Dr. Agarwal for the first time, I said, this is it. He embodies what determination and what you can do regardless of your handicaps. And that's where I am. My only regret is that I've not been able to give as much time as I would desire to Sarthak. However, I've tried to do my best, give communication sessions, which I enjoy. I have supported them in whatever events in Bombay and Pune. But I wish I could have spent more time with them. And I'm really happy that I'm associated with them. Thank you very much. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Bacha. This is really, really nice and inspiring story. This is phenomenal that it takes a moment. It takes a moment to take breath away, as well as it takes a moment to change your life. And it takes a moment only to enable someone. So such powerful message. Thank you, Mr. Bacha. My only request would be, the new normal is what we are doing today. You have immense knowledge, you have immense communication ability, and we would be obliged, we at Sarthak would be obliged, that don't restrict your expertise only to Mumbai and Pune. Now, the entire Sarthak community, our alumni, our present batch and future is looking up to you for knowledge. So, sir, you have full force now to give. So this is.
I'm available. Thank you very much.
This is.
I'm most available.
Yes. So thank you, Mr. Bacha, for sharing such a wonderful story. So my next question comes back to Ashish, and Ashish, this is a little tricky one, so you have to bear with me. We all at some level have worked in the corporate sector. We all are working in the corporate sector. I'm working, you are working. But we clearly realize there is a limitation when India's population is 1.37, 1.38 billion, right? So there can be as many only jobs which will emerge. So how do we create Atmanirbhar Divyang? How can we create self-employed Divyang? How can we create entrepreneurial Divyang? So some few thoughts, because you have a whole lot of experience and perhaps you're working with one of the best entrepreneurs, perhaps in India, perhaps in Asia, perhaps in the world. So few thoughts, Ashish.
Thank you, Siddharth, for asking me this question.
Little tricky, sorry.
It's okay, it's all right.
But we want to...
I would say that a lot of work has to happen on the part of the government to start with, in terms of upskilling them, right? There's a lot, and I know for sure a lot of work is already on the way to enable them to skill them up to take up higher assignment. Now, when I talk of my organization, we have a cashiering department where people come and do the checkout and make the bill payment. We ensure that most of the differently able associates, and I never call them disabled, because in my own interpretation, they are not at all disabled. They are differently able. We are able, so everyone is enabled in a different ways. So we are enabled in different ways, and so also they are. We call them as a practice and as a belief, differently able. And we make it a point that in all the cashiering, if I have 10 associates who are differently able in my store, ensure that 7 to 8 out of them are deployed at the casters. So we give them training, be it a cashiering or metler, where you go and weigh your kind of loose staples or the vegetables. So those are the two skilled job in a store environment. Other are kind of a physically laborious job. So we make it a point that all the cashiers, to a large extent, are trained and staffed by the differently able people. So because I'm responding to the question as to how do we do. So we're very much conscious of the fact that where they are better suitable at, because there are some physical challenges. So if I put them in a job which requires physical labor, then I'm doing injustice. So therefore, as an organization, as an HR community, am I conscious of their ability and therefore deploy them at the right placement? That's number one. Number two, taking the cue what Mr. Chandramouli said, my own experience has been, they have a simple expectation, is that don't look at us as from a top-down approach. Look at us as through a relationship of equality. The moment you look at them that you and me are equal, and you really believe that one, that is the greatest motivation and the greatest reward that you give it to them. The moment they get a feel, these people think that they are better off than me as a different level associate of the person, they get a feel that we are doing a favor to them. It's not a question of doing a favor to them. It's a question of giving messaging that we are different, but we are equal. I think the moment that messaging goes from the organization, from our behaviors, you would find that they give back 200% to the society, to the company that they're working. So I think these are two things I'd like to say. On the skill building front, frankly speaking, we haven't done too much, because our job demands generic skill set. But I said to you that whenever it comes to some skilling activity like a cashiering, like a metler, we kind of deploy them, skill them up. And okay, let me also tell you, in few stores, 3 to 4 stores, these differently able associates have risen up to be a store manager.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. So they have risen from the associates and they are doing a store manager, assistant store manager kind of role. So it's a collective belief that yes, we are equal, we are together. There's nothing called I'm better off than you. And that relations of equality has really played a pivotal role in fostering the relations of our working together. So that's how I would like to conclude.
Thank you, Ashish. This is so 3 very important things. Again, Ashish taught us. First is that we need to ensure that skills are built. Second, we have to make sure that people are put into the suitable jobs. So the suitability is the second criteria which people should work upon. And the third thing is ability of people to adjust and employers to figure that out. So Ashish, one very important thing which comes to my mind, and that relates to the suitability part of your point, and it's so relevant. So Albert Einstein said that everyone is a genius. Everyone is a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. So I think what you said makes so much sense. Thank you, Ashish. This is wonderful. Supriya, can you throw some light? What can media do? What can generally media, PR, news agencies, everybody can do together to ensure there is Atmanirbhar Divyang, there's entrepreneurial Divyang. Can you throw some light on that, please?
Yes, Siddharth. I'm going to actually take on a bit of the question that you asked Ashish as well, because that's been something I have talked with Dr. Agarwal as well, which is, the sheer numbers that we are looking at, 2.5 crore disabled people, majority of them are in rural areas, 69% are from rural areas, right? So I don't think it's just a question of, compassion, charity, or just jobs in companies. I fundamentally believe that what we really need to be driving towards is how do we create entrepreneurs. And over the years, I think it is becoming increasingly clear that what we need to do is do the same thing that happens anywhere else in the same format. And what I would like to see is, therefore, that we create a large blueprint where we are raising funds which are raised both from government and corporates, so that we create incubators, we create accelerators, we do training, we provide startup capital to the entrepreneurs. Now, where does media come into this picture? I think at the end of the day, one of the key things we need to be looking at is that don't just think in terms of communication. Think in terms of goal-driven communication. Every year, stand up and say, these are the 3 goals that we will advocate. And therefore, when you are actually communicating, you are driving an advocacy, and that takes you into the mainstream. Just sitting there on the side and saying, I need to talk about a lot of issues. I have seen, for instance, children who are hitting class, they're 14 years old, are not able to get into any school in 15 because till 14 they are getting special classes and sections in various major schools, and then suddenly they're left out. I think what we need is goal-driven communication, and I would think getting the government and corporates involved in an exercise of building a corpus for startup funds for the disabled. We raise so much funds for everything from a fashion brand to a food brand, from logistics brand to what have you. I think what we need to start driving now is very, very goal-driven communication. I think that will take us into the mainstream. Just waiting and hoping that other people are going to write about us because it is an issue that is to be written about is not good enough.
Excellent point. So very clearly, Supriya is emphasizing that the institution like Sarthak or any other institution which is expecting media support also have to have goal-driven communication. So we need to ensure that we push media to cover A, B, C, D, which creates awareness and which creates possibilities for the entrepreneurs and for the Divyang entrepreneurs. So thank you, Supriya. This is really helpful. My next question comes to Mr. Chandramouli. What do you see? So you have done a lot of work in inspiring people already. But what do you think we can do from here to ensure we have a entrepreneurial Divyang, we have a Atmanirbhar Divyang, we have a self-reliant Divyang, sir? Mr. Chandramouli, you have to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, in terms of entrepreneurial, I will touch upon it subsequently. in terms of being self-reliant, I think there are a couple of things which probably a Divyang has to, do. One is an attitude and an attitude of adaptability. Like I'll give you a case study of a person who was both deaf and blind. Okay. This person used to work in a bank. He was only partially able to hear when he joined the bank. And of course, subsequently, due to some medical negligence, he lost both his eyes, right? Now, because, the bank, he had served the bank for a number of years, they said that, for the rest of your service, you can come and sit here and then go. The person went and told the managing director, sorry, sir, I don't want to do this. I want to earn my salary. So they said, what can we do? They said, should we put you in the inspection department and all that? He said, don't do any of these illogical things. I will work like a normal employee. So what he did, he took on jobs like managing an extension center in a college alone with one pew.
Wow.
Right? Then when he came back to the branch banking operations, he learned how to count by understanding the length of the notes.
Wow. Interesting.
Very right? So then after that, basically the thing is that he needed some help probably to get down the stairs and all that. After a point of time, he stopped asking anybody because he counted the number of stairs, counted the number of steps. He used to do that. He used to climb 3 steps, come down to get into a rickshaw or whatever vehicle. He used to, go to the office and come back home. Right? So never was there ever, a situation where the person felt that he is helpless. Never would the person say that, even if he was very sick, he would take medication and go, because he would say that my presence is important. And at the end of the day, when the person retired from that particular organization, he was a very valued member, because they said he never took cover under the disability or so on. So therefore, what you need to be able to do is that whichever kind of ability, disability you have, all of us have pluses and minuses, right? In some, it is very apparent. In other cases, our bosses, identify it and tell us all the time.
Very nice.
So therefore, the thing is that what needs to happen is you need to look at how to manage this and how to progress. So there, an ability to adapt, an ability to take on more than what you think you can do. And actually, it so happens that, the fortune favors the brave and you will deliver. Once you become, you're reliable and consistent, the organization values you, and from there, your path becomes much easier. But you must always determine the fact that there is no free lunch in this world. Opportunities will come. You have to identify them, go towards them, pick them up, and grow with it. Sometimes they may not also work. So probably, that door is shut. It doesn't mean if one door is shut that, all doors are shut.
Correct.
Go with the, the thing that you have the keys for a different lock. So my very sincere and humble suggestion is that people need to be adaptable. People need to have an attitude of can do, can learn, and will do.
Thank you, Mr. Chandramouli. This is very so. 3 words of Mr. Chandramouli which will stay with us: attitude of adaptability. Just accept, embrace, and can do. Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Chandramouli. This is wonderful. Wonderful. Mr. Bacha, sir, the same question. How can we create ferocious, young, smart youth who are Divyang, the top-notch entrepreneurs? How can we ensure that these smart people who have great rigor can become great entrepreneurs as well? So some thoughts?
Not an easy question to answer, but well, let me tell you this, what's been on my mind for some time since I've been with Sarthak, and I've aired it as well. I'm jumping probably to the next panel issue, but I think it's relevant to what you're saying. Mr. Supriyo very correctly mentioned that 69% of Divyangs are currently in the rural areas. Probably the NGO needs to really reach out to that section, which probably we have not done much. Like in the West, we have 3 centers in Bombay, 1 in Pune and 1 in Thane, if I'm not wrong. Each of them do about 65, 70 students skill setting every quarter, which sounds good on paper, but we are nowhere near the percentage of what Mr. Supriyo mentioned in his statistics.
Correct. We are just top of the...
Yeah, we are skimming. Yeah. We are skimming the top. Now let's be honest with ourselves sometimes. And what I personally feel is that probably we have the right type of people, like who are into communications, who are into the retail business. There are people like me who are available to do some skill improvement of those people. But if those people are given the opportunity, or a marginal section of those people are given the opportunity, probably they will have the enthusiasm, the spirit, and the need to be sustainable enough to come up and reach up to an entrepreneur level in however a small way. Then people who have got it reasonably comfortable in an urban lifestyle. Okay, I hope I'm coming through clearly in what I'm trying to say. And as I'm looking at my messages, unfortunately, Sunita Ambadkar has not been able to come online, but she has put a few pointers on this, saying that there are, in the current COVID situation, people could get into mask making, people could get into food packaging. You see, my son is with the Taj for the last 10 years, and he has been posting me on the sort of food packages they are preparing for the frontline workers today, which is a fantastic work done by the Tatas all across the country. Maybe these are the areas where these people can come in and support. And being an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you own a 6,000 rupee company over the next so many years. It could be small operations which are sustainable and which are self-servicing. So this is my little thought on the whole thing. Yeah.
So excellent. So what Mr. Bacha is trying to say कि छोटे initiatives लीजिए, छोटे प्रोडक्ट बनाइए, छोटे चीजें बनाइए जिनकी जरूरतें हैं, जो इमीडिएटली बिक जाए, जिसमें पेरिशेबिलिटी कम है, जिसमें लॉन्जिविटी थोड़ी ज्यादा है, वो बनाने के बाद वो बेचिए, प्रॉफिटेबल तरीके से बेचिए, लॉस का धंधा मत कीजिए, छोटे कदमों से ही रास्ता पार हो जाएगा, भव सागर के हम सब पार हो जाएंगे. Thank you Mr. Bacha. This is phenomenal. Now I would request all the panelists to just gear up, because we have some very fantastic questions, and this question actually just touched me. There's a person who's saying that person with disability, the term used us to create an identity crisis for us. So यहाँ पे हम बात कर रहे हैं डिफरेंटली एबल्ड, जैसा आशीष ने हमको बताया, मिस्टर सुप्रियो ने बताया, मिस्टर गुप्ता ने बताया कि जो डिफरेंटली एबल्ड हैं उनको अटेंशन ज्यादा मिलती है, उनका कनेक्ट बेहतर है, वो काम बेहतर कर सकते हैं. यहाँ पे जो क्वेश्चन आ रहा है एकदम विपरीत रुख से आ रहा है, और वो गलत नहीं है जो ये क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हैं. ये क्वेश्चन इसलिए पूछ रहे हैं, शायद उन्होंने एक्सपीरियंस किया है. जैसे ही आपने डिफरेंटली एबल्ड बोला, उनकी लाइफ में क्राइसिस आ जाती है. जहां पे भी वो जाते हैं लोगों को लगता है कि ये तो अपंग हैं. तो कुछ इसमें कुछ कमेंट्स, आशीष, सुप्रियो, फिरोज, मिस्टर चंद्रमौली, आप लोग जो भी इस पे 2 टिप्पणियां करना चाहेंगे और कैसे इस नजरिए को बदला जाए, कुछ सुझाव, बट एक्शनेबल सुझाव, some actionable points, how to change our perspective, how to, and this is not going to be done by the society, because society will still say the bad things. How should the person look at it? It's open because you all guys are experts. So
can I?
Yes. Yeah,
can I come in here? Again, as you very correctly started off the panel discussion, stories make a big difference. One of my colleagues was almost closing a fairly large deal in Aurangabad, if I remember correctly, not important. And they almost signed off and agreed on everything. And he took his hand out to shake hands with the person who was giving him the business, who was sitting on the time. My colleague stood up and expected him to stand up and shake hands. And that person could not. After a 45-minute discussion, my colleague realized that the person across him was partially disabled and he could not stand up. And he felt very bad and he walked out. Believe me, the order did not come to him. It went to somebody else. Because the person sitting across felt insulted that he would not be able to stand up and accept. So how a partially disabled person will react to a normal human being could be very different, and it could be very sensitive. Therefore, I think the simplest thing one could do, the least one could do, is empathize. I think empathy is normally goes out of the window. Put yourself in the other person's shoes, understand his situation. And importantly, my take is, in such a situation, if I can answer that question, people should just be normal, because people expect acknowledgement and respect, not sympathy. So when empathy shifts to sympathy, that's where the problem probably starts, is my view. I'm not a psychologist, I'm an engineer, but this is what I've learned and I can convey. If there's anyone else to say that, please go ahead. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, if I may step in on this one, just
Sure.
a bit. I think the question which is getting asked here is, as a person with disability, the term people use for us create an identity crisis, right? And I think it's a lot to do. All these terms are actually an effort of the people who are so-called normal, who are so-called not disabled, to try and find a way to engage on a category, which I think we should stop doing. I think we should look at individuals, and just as you try and work with an individual, I mean, you can have a fully physically able person and you could have all the merits that you have, but yet I know as a people, somebody working with people across the board, that you have to work with them. Nobody comes with 100%, right? Even everybody comes with a 60%. Even I would have started my job with maybe 30% capabilities and I would have grown up to 60%. Nobody gave me a term. They called me superior, right? And I think that's something that we need to, and nobody called me that, you know, when you're 30%, you're a duffer. And they called you a duffer till you reach 60%. And by that time, you're ready to retire. I think that's the whole point. Can we start just looking and dealing with people as people? I think we struggle. I mean, this is just my interpretation, which I think we struggle and have to categorize. This friend of mine has got, you know, children who, one of the child is differently able, and he wrote one piece on Facebook one, which says, you know, where the child is having problems, people stand and gawk. Don't stand and gawk. Ask if you can help. Otherwise, just, you know, do what you normally do and continue with your life. So yes, I think it's a very valid point, because the rest of the point she makes is, give us rights, implement existing rights, provide education, employment, accessibility. So that 69% out of the 2.68 crores, only about 12 lakh graduates are there. Only 34 lakhs are matric educated, and I'm out of the 2.68, about 46 lakhs are in the 10 to 19 years old age group. So what we really need to be doing is exactly what is being said here, which is give us rights, implement, mainstream it. I think that's something that from the very beginning I'm saying, I think we need to try and see how much more can we mainstream the entire issue as much as possible.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Supriya. This is helpful. I will quickly jump to the next question, because this is very, very important. Everybody is asking, and there are a couple of questions around that, is what differently abled should be doing during this pandemic period, specifically when jobs are also drying up, where opportunities are also drying up. Mr. Patnaik, Mr. Chandramouli, some thoughts?
I think if I can respond to this question, whether it's differently able or anybody for that matter, yes. In this crisis scenario, one should try to stay home. I mean, to stay safe, to stay home. Because health is an important concern for everybody. It is a virus which can spread like a fire. So first and foremost advice to anybody and everybody is that to stay home, back home, so that he is not, or he or she is not exposing himself or herself to virus. Now, having said this, in essential services, for example, I'm a board of Alliance and we are running 750 stores all across the country. So definitely, because we are essential services, we have a moral responsibility toward the nation, toward the country, toward the society to serve them. So we have our stores open and we ask people to come to the stores. So what we do is that we take a lot of precautionary steps to ensure that all our employees, all our associates are fully protected from a safety perspective. I do not have so much of number as to how many actually differently abled are turning up to the stores. But in the initial 3 months, since it broke out in the month of March till kind of in July, we have ensured that even if somebody is not turning up to the store, we have ensured that we don't deduct the salary. We have paid the salary full wages to anybody, whether somebody is coming to the store or not coming to the store. We are very much aware of the difficulties that these people have, and being cognizant of that fact, we have paid them the full salary. There have been few cases, there have been few instances where a differently able staff, despite the physical disabilities, have made all the effort to turn up at the store. So there are very, very remarkable, inspirational examples where the differently able staff, despite all the difficulties and problems on the road, being beaten up by the cops in the initial stages of the curfew, because of the enormous city in customer service orientation, they could make it out. But to answer your question, I think this is in Corona time, it is better to be fearful. ना जैसे बोलते हैं ना, एक डरना मना है, लेकिन इस हालात में डरना चाहिए. One should not be bravado. One should be fearful and stay back as much as possible in home, unless and until your job requires you to step out. And that is, I think, applicable to everybody, to all of us in the panel and those who are listening to us. It is important that we adhere to the disciplinary measures that is being enforced. So that's what I would like to kind of say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is helpful. Mr. Chandramouli, any thoughts on kya kare specific?
Basically, yeah. I think, as Ashish said, some base rules are very, very clear in terms of, stay safe, stay healthy. And what I look at it, as they say, every crisis is a great opportunity. So the opportunity that is there is, first of all, one of the challenges that, the differently abled face is mobility, right? Mobility from their home to, the office. Now, this work from home actually gives a great opportunity for people to look for work which can be done from home, right? A number of things, like, for example, I'll give you a simple example. Like many of us, while working in corporates, require some, additional embellishments to our presentations. If you develop the skills that are there on PowerPoint, it takes a little bit of time to get to that level of expertise, but it can be done. But once you develop it, you get premium, paid for that, right? Like, for example, you can also, sit and do lots of other things. Like, for example, tomorrow, if you want to teach people at the base level how to, write simple sentences in English, how to be able to communicate in English, this can happen. So you can do it from home. And if you want to, get into any other activity for that particular matter, it can be done. So therefore, the thing is, be open-minded in terms of being able to learn and develop, a skill. That skill may not always be able to help you through your life. Keep learning new things and keep doing new things. So, whatever opportunities are coming, you may be able to, take, cognizance of it and use it for yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chandramouli. This is very, very effective. So, Mr. Chandramouli is essentially saying, mobility is a challenge. Chalna firna ya travel करना थोड़ा दिव्यांग जन के लिए कठिन होता है, और वर्क फ्रॉम होम से ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटी आ गई है कि आप दुनिया के किसी भी कोने में बैठ करके किसी भी दूसरे दुनिया के आदमी को या औरत को कुछ सिखा सकते हैं, कुछ पढ़ा सकते हैं, कुछ काम कर सकते हैं जिसके लिए आपको पेमेंट मिल सकती है। तो ऐसे इनिशिएटिव शुरू करें और आपकी सक्सेस, आपकी विजय, आपकी जीत निश्चित है। One of our panelists who couldn't come, Sunita Ambatkar, and she's a success story of Sarthak. उन्होंने पुणे में हमारे पुणे इंस्टीट्यूट से बड़ा छोटे लेवल से शुरू करके आज वो एक बड़े इंस्टीट्यूशन, बड़े ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की चीफ ऑपरेटिंग ऑफिसर है। क्यूडोस उनकी हिम्मत को, उनकी ताकत को और उनके जज्बे को, जिससे वो पहुंची। और आज वो चाहती हैं कि हम सब भी उसी तरीके से प्रयत्न करें, काम करें जैसा सुनीता जी ने किया है। और उनके 3 बड़े सिंपल सुझाव हैं जो मेरे पास व्हाट्सएप पे आ रहे हैं। पहला, उन्होंने बोला कि मास्क मेकिंग का बिजनेस काफी तेजी से चल रहा है, लोगों को मास्क कॉन्स्टेंटली चाहिए होंगे। अगर आपके पास आज मास्क है भी तो वो वेयर टेयर हो जाएगा, नया चाहिए होगा, तो उसका बिजनेस शुरू करें, घर में से मास्क बना करके बेचना शुरू करें। दूसरा है, खाने के पैकेट्स, छोटे छोटे पैकेट्स पैक करें और उनको बेचना शुरू करें, उनको डिलीवर करें। पैकेजिंग ऑफ द फूड पैकेट्स इज द सेकंड थॉट, और वो सेकंड सुझाव है जो वो दे रही है। तीसरा बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, आज अगर हॉस्पिटल्स में देखें तो सब जगह रश है, सब जगह बहुत ज्यादा क्राउड है, बहुत सारे पेशेंट्स हैं, तो उनके लिए डेटा एंट्री करना, उनका बैक एंड मैनेज करना आप वर्क फ्रॉम होम से कर सकते हैं। अगर आप किसी भी हॉस्पिटल को अप्रोच करें और अपनी सर्विसेज देने की प्रयत्न करें, हॉस्पिटल डेफिनेटली आपको एब्जॉर्ब करेगा, आपको पेमेंट देगा और आपकी सर्विसेज को यूज करेगा। सो थैंक यू सुनीता जी, एंड थैंक्स टू ब्रिलियंट पैनलिस्ट। आप लोग ने बहुत अच्छी बढ़िया चीजें बताई और आपने बताया कि कैसे आत्मनिर्भर, एंटरप्रेन्योरल, सेल्फ रिलायंट दिव्यांग बन सकते हैं, कैसे हम हमारे अंदर ही वो शक्ति है जिससे हम अपनी सारी कठिनाइयों को दूर कर सकते हैं। थैंक यू सो मच आशीष जी, सुप्रियो जी, फिरोज, मिस्टर चंद्रमौली। I would like to end the panel discussion with a few lines, and I would want to invoke here the Italian Saint Francis of Assisi. उन्होंने कहा था, so he said, start doing what is necessary. Start doing what is necessary. वो करना शुरू कीजिए जो आज जरूरी है. Then do what is possible. फिर वो कीजिए जो आप कर सकते हैं, जिसमें आप सार्थक हैं, जिसमें आप सक्रिय हैं. And suddenly you will find yourself doing the impossible. Suddenly you will find doing the impossible. Start doing what is necessary, then do what is possible, and suddenly you would see that you are doing impossible. So इस शब्दों के साथ सार्थक के 12 साल कंप्लीट होने के उत्सव में बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। सारे पैनलिस्ट को हार्दिक धन्यवाद। आप सबका दिन शुभ हो और हम एक सार्थक, एक सशक्त और एक दिव्यांग प्रगतिशील भारत की कामना और निर्माण करेंगे। थैंक यू।
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.